Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And I hope that you are doing well today. We're going to be spending some time talking about this whole debate surrounding Zionism. And this is the hot topic. That's why I'm going to continue to be covering it, continue to be discussing it, and hopefully you will be able to understand how important the matter is. This is such a hot topic right now, and it seems to only be increasing. I really did think that this was just kind of more so a fad that would eventually go away. And yet, no, here we are, and this is a major topic. It has captured the minds of many in Christianity, but also many in the political sphere as well. I mean, Tucker Carlson has one of the biggest platforms out of everyone, and he has just been kind of going on and on nonstop about this subject. And we've already talked about it earlier this week, and about how there is this cold civil war that is kind of being carried out amongst conservatives. And so we've got an article from the Christian Post that we're going to take a look at today. And I'm going to spend some time reflecting on hopefully trying to explain both sides of the issue here, and really trying to explain why the narrative is wrong. Why the narrative is wrong on the Zionist side. Okay, I think that many who come from the Zionist perspective do so out of a misunderstanding of doctrine, okay, out of incorrect doctrine. And then also you have the anti-Zionists, but they're also wrong in their narrative as well. They're also coming at it from the wrong perspective, from the wrong angle. So I'm going to do my best to try to really explain why it is that they're incorrect in how they're looking at this, incorrect in how they're thinking about this. And it's really frustrating because I believe, it's my conviction that the right dividing position on the Bible is the solution to resolving this major conflict. And it's also, I think, going to be the solution as far as maybe even some political matters as well. I really am that confident in our theology, in our interpretation of the Bible. And so with that, that's what we're going to be discussing mainly today as far as our subject. We also do have a question that I'm going to get to, try to spend some time reflecting on it. It's also going to center around rightly dividing the Bible. So very theologically heavy today, all right, for today's show, which I think is good because we've been doing a lot of time discussing politics, and you're probably sick and tired of politics. I know I am. Politics is it's politics, all right? Poly means many, and ticks are little bugs that suck your blood, all right? Now, moving on from here, let's go ahead and do a few announcements for you. I will remind you that we had our Studying Abraham series. It's going on Wednesday right now. We just finished session number 20, I believe, and so go over to markbazeministries.org or go over to YouTube and you can watch that session. And we're going to be back with Studying Abraham next Wednesday. This Sunday, of course, we have our Hosea series, Hosea verse by verse. We'll be covering chapter 7. Chapter 7. I don't know how much of chapter 7 we're going to get through. I don't know if we can get through the whole thing, but that's what we're going to be doing in Hosea, verse by verse, trying to give you some good verse-by-verse study there. And then, of course, our Sunday School series, A Guide to the Greek Scriptures. That is our Sunday School series, and you will be seeing that. And we'll also, exciting news, be starting a brand new Sunday night series this week, a brand new Sunday night series. You'll have to wait. I'm not going to release the series yet. You're just going to have to wait and see what pops up on the YouTube channel on Sunday night. So very exciting. We will be starting 3 live streams on Sunday. Sunday school, Sunday service, and Sunday evening. Sunday evening will be 6 o'clock Central Time. All right. So for all of you who are outside of the Central Time Zone, 6 o'clock Central Time. We have more Bible studies going on here than you can shake a stick at. All right, how about that? So let's go ahead and get back over to our subject here. And this is the article from the Christian Post that I want to take some time to discuss. Evangelical leader challenges Tucker Carlson to debate on Zionism. He must be held accountable. So this is an article here, Samantha Kamen. I don't know anything about her. She is a reporter here for Christian Post, and I know that because it says Christian Post reporter right there. And so what I want to do is take some time to go through the article. It's a little bit lengthy. We're not going to cover the whole thing, but I want us to reflect on both sides of this matter here. Okay, let's do the best we can to really analyze the position that both sides have on both the Zionist and the anti-Zionist position. And obviously Tucker Carlson is invoked here because Tucker Carlson is probably the most famous person who has been outspoken against the Zionist movement so far. There's some other ones, and they're almost all on the they're the online podcast type format. You've got Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Yes, there is this young up-and-coming guy named Nick Fuentes who is, I don't know, maybe a poison pill to the Republican Party and conservatives in general. It'll be interesting how all this plays out. Some people, they just take off and it's just a rocket ship in popularity, and maybe they continue, but then sometimes it just explodes and then they come crashing down, right? So we'll see how all this plays out. But Tucker Carlson is kind of the most famous figure right now who's been very critical of Israel and critical in U.S. support. And that is interesting because before we get into the article, I wanted to reflect on the whole picture here, because what you have is some of those who are just inherently isolationist who say, no, let's not get the U.S. involved in any wars, okay? They just want to completely stay out of that. And therefore they say, let's not give money to Israel, let's not give money to Ukraine. America's got its own problems, which, hey, I get that part. We have lots of problems. But then there are those that say, no, Israel is just evil. Israel is an evil country. They're an evil nation. We should not be supporting them. They're committing a genocide. And there's some that feel very strongly about that, all right? So that's kind of where the different ideas are concerning why the United States doesn't need to be involved with Israel, Zionism, and once again, Tucker Carlson is a major figurehead on this side of the discussion. All right. So here we go. It says, an evangelical leader who says he's devoted his life to protecting Jews after his father nearly strangled him to death for defending his Jewish mother is calling on media personality Tucker Carlson to debate him on the topic of Zionism. Now, let's go ahead and stop right there. I think that if we're going to discuss this matter, you do just need to pay attention to all the key details. An evangelical leader, so identifies as a Christian, does not say Messianic Jew. All right, he's not a Messianic Jew, he's an evangelical leader who says he devoted his life to protecting Jews, and his mother is in fact Jewish. His father nearly strangled him to death. I mean, it's a terrible background there growing up. I mean, your own father trying to strangle you to death for the sake of protecting your mother. So he is Jewish in his, whether it's ethnicity or at least his heritage, right? Because not everybody who's Jewish is ethnically Jewish. So with that, already there's some ingredients baked in here to his life experience to lead him to Zionism in that aspect, okay? Now, you could be, in theory, Zionist for doctrinal reasons that are correct, right? Maybe so. Maybe it is doctrinally correct to be a Zionist, right? We're talking about the theory of hypotheticals concerning what does the Scripture say. Right there is more of a Zionism initially probably of personal experience as opposed to maybe doctrine, right? So I don't know where he devises his Zionist doctrine, whether that is from his analytical study of Scripture or it's more so influenced by his personal background, okay? But with that being said, his name is Mike Evans, the 78-year-old founder of the Friends of Zion Heritage Center in Jerusalem. I know nothing of that organization, so I can't speak about them. He told the Christian Post that the former Fox News host must be held accountable for his comments about Zionists and Israel, the Jewish people's homeland. And Tucker Carlson had some very controversial statements that he gave in the interview that he did with Nick Fuentes. All right, once again, it's going to go back to that. He interviewed Nick Fuentes, who is somebody who says a lot of things. And it makes you wonder, is he more of an Alex Jones type? Because Alex Jones says a lot of things. And Alex Jones is more so an entertainer, right, than a lot of other things. And so, that's not to say that Alex Jones has never been right about something. I'm just telling you the format, right? He does so to entertain. Tucker Carlson has Nick Fuentes on. They bring up the matter of Zionism. And Carlson, he says some very... I would go so far to say, even if you are someone who is very much skeptical of the legitimacy and the conduct of the nation of Israel, all right? I'm just going to give you every bone, right? Throw every bone to you and just assume that you're correct in your assumptions there. For Carlson to say this is quite a jump, all right? So here's what Carlson said, and this is a summary from Evans, but it is quite accurate. Carlson recently said he hates Christian Zionists more than anyone on earth. And I saw and watched that clip myself. I don't know if you've seen that clip, but that was Carlson's statement. Now, Carlson, is he a man that really believes those things, or is he somebody who is trying to rack up views and he knows what to say in order to get the kind of reaction that he wants? I've long thought about that about Tucker. Ever since he left Fox News and started his own show, he's always chasing the next big thing, all right? Is it just luck? Is he lucky that whatever he's into right now happens to be the hot topic of the day? Remember 2 years ago, I remember listening to his interview with Vladimir Putin, because I was in Dallas waiting for my children, my triplets, to be out of NICU. And I remember sitting there in my truck. We were, I don't know, maybe eating a burger from a burger place that night. I can't remember. And I was listening to him interview Vladimir Putin. Well, at that point, what was the hot topic? What was everybody talking about? It was Russia, right? Russia was the main focus, the Ukraine war. And Tucker comes in with his very hot take. Oh, Russia's not that bad. Ha ha ha! You know how he laughs. That's not quite the Tucker laugh. But he interviews Putin, gives a very kind of cushy interview to him, doesn't really throw any hard questions, doesn't press him on anything. And then he went to the Russian grocery store and talked about how, oh, look how great it is. Look how cheap everything is here in Russia, even though probably when you look at average income for somebody in Russia is probably not the same in the United States. So can't quite compare apples to apples there. But anyways, Tucker's just always in the mix. He's always in the middle of the hot topics, all right? And right now, what's the hot topic? Zionism, Israel, and guess who's right in the thick of things? Tucker Carlson, right? So Carlson, he's trying to stay relevant, and he is doing a good job. I mean, he's getting hundreds of thousands of views. His live streams rack up insane numbers, right? Not quite as many as ours, of course, but he still gets quite a few views. And so Tucker Carlson makes this statement about how he hates Christian Zionists more than anyone on earth, calling us infected with a brain disease. Evans talking about himself there, Mike Evans. I do think that's kind of a silly statement, because even if Israel was the big bad boogeyman that you all think they are, right? All of you like Tucker Carlson. When I say those words, understand my context. I'm framing this talking to Tucker. Tucker, if Israel is as evil and bad as you think it is, the person who's a Christian Zionist is not the worst person on earth. Because they're not supporting Israel because Israel is engaging in these acts of evil. They support Israel for a number of reasons. Maybe they see Israel as an ally. Israel has fought with the United States before in the Middle East. American and Israeli soldiers have been on the battlefield together. Israel is a Western type country. They hold elections. They are very much westernized in their thinking. They're a modern nation. There are Christians, Jews, Muslims, atheists, all living together in the nation of Israel. So they have a number of reasons for why they would support the nation, all right? And then there is the theological side of things. We'll talk about that. We'll pull out some scripture here in a little bit. But they would support Israel on the basis of, Genesis chapter 12. Do you think of Ted Cruz and that not great interview that Ted Cruz did, in which he says, I support Israel because Genesis, tells me so. But they have their reasons. Tucker, that is a silly statement. All right, I know that you're watching this. And to say that you hate a Christian Zionist more than you hate someone who is for abortion up to the point of birth. And once again, it's strong language. Do we want to say we hate those people? There are some who are just vilely evil about it. But regardless, to say that Christian Zionists, you despise them more than someone who believes that we should just open up the borders, let anybody come in, even criminals engaging in human trafficking and all sorts of other vile, evil things. I mean, really, the 65-year-old sweet church-going lady that supports Israel, she's the worst. She's the worst. This is where that inflated language, even if you're trying to make a point and you believe in your point, right? You believe in your conviction about, Israel doesn't have our best interest in mind. They're using us. Once again, I'm saying what they're saying. I'm not telling you my thoughts. I'm still trying to figure it all out. I don't want to be manipulated. I don't want Tucker Carlson to manipulate me nor anybody else. But really, you're going to claim that these church-going conservative people are the worst. That's silly. That's silly. I have a hard time believing that Carlson actually believes that he would take a radical, blue-haired, feminist, socialist over a conservative Christian Zionist. You're using very extreme rhetoric to try to make your point. And I don't think it's helping. I think you're driving a wedge. All right. So, Tucker Carlson's statement there, I think, is just absurd. It's absurd. Mike Evans responds. He references Carlson's remarks during an interview last week with Nick Fuentes, a far-right political commentator and provocateur known for spreading anti-Semitic rhetoric and lauding Hitler and Stalin. And Nick Fuentes has said such. After the interview aired, Carlson claimed that his comment about despising Christian Zionists was said in anger, and then he accused Israel of intentionally bombing churches and killing Christians in Gaza. Now, we do know that churches were hit. Israel has acknowledged it, but was it intentional? Israel denies that it was intentional, and so, I don't know. Tucker Carlson seems to always believe Hamas. It just so happens, kind of, when Hamas has something to say, he'll just buy into whatever numbers Hamas gives. Yeah, Israel murdered such and such many children, and he'll repeat it. And then when Israel comes and says, no, we did not intentionally hit that church, it was an accident, it was collateral damage, Tucker Carlson, I don't know about that. I'm just asking questions, right? And then insert Tucker Carlson's hysterical laugh. So this really is showing us the major conflict here between this vein of America first. That's what they say, America first. And I guess I believe him, even though I think Tucker Carlson is an actor. I think he's putting on an act. How much of it does he believe? Remember, guys, Tucker Carlson was on Fox News wearing a bow tie, and now he's in a cabin wearing a flannel shirt, trout fishing. I don't know. Yeah, you go through phases, I guess. I got a dirt bike a few years ago. Have a lot of fun on it, right? I didn't have a dirt bike before. Considered a quarter-life crisis. I don't know. But the side that is very much anti-Zionism, their argument is we're America first, we don't need to be worried about anybody else. Okay. There you go. There's your take there. They come at it from the political side, saying that Israel is just manipulating us. They reference AIPAC and all the lobbying that goes into buying politicians, and we're sending money and ammunition, and then oh my goodness, we're going to send American troops to die for Israel, even though I haven't seen that happen once. You have to say that, all right, sorry, but no American troops have went and then you got the guys that will argue that about 9/11. See how deep the the levels go. Guys, I understand you have your grievances, all right, but here's the issue. I'm more fascinated here with where so much of this comes from is not just political, and this is really the heart of the matter here. That their debate, they will use political arguments and grievances, politicians to be critical of Israel, all right? They will. They'll use all those things. But I'm telling you right now that I think this problem, the narrative, all right, which is presented once again as a political narrative in many ways, I do think it is much more grounded in theology. I really do think that. So as we see this, we're going to read the article more here, but as we see the conversation play out, I think that doctrine and theology is at the heart of this matter. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Evans told Christian Post that he has written a letter to Carlson requesting that they debate the topic of Christian Zionism. According to the Friends of Zion founder, Carlson has yet to respond to the request. I believe this is such a conversation for our time, Evans said, declaring that anti-Zionism has become the new anti-Semitism. Interesting statement there. Anti-Zionism has become the new anti-Semitism. I do think those words have been used interchangeably, but they aren't the same thing. Anti-Zionism is the political movement, all right? And while it is presented as political, there is a theological aspect to it as well. Unless you want to call it something else. But what do you call it when there are people who believe doctrinally that Israel has a right to the land? Israel should be living in the land, and if you want to be right with God, you need to bless Israel. I mean, there is that sentiment. I mean, I've seen churches in America flying an Israeli flag because they're reflecting that conviction. I do not think that if you are anti-Zionist, all right, so let me extend the olive branch, the peace pipe, all right, to the young, discontented Zoomers out there, young folks who may be watching this show. You are not anti-Semitic for being anti-Zionist, all right? If you do not support the United States being involved with Israel, sending them money just because you want the United States to be autonomous and you can argue they're autonomous anyways, but the point is, be more isolationist in foreign policy. Maybe you just don't maybe you think Netanyahu's corrupt, politicians just kind of are corrupt. Most of them are. That's just how it goes. I'm not going to say you're anti-Semitic. I do not think that you have an inherent hatred of the Jewish people. I'm not accusing you of being a Nazi or anything like that, okay? And I think it is unfair and disingenuous just because if somebody is not pro-Zionism, that means they are anti-Semitic, they are racist towards the Jewish people. It could be for a political reason. It could be for a theological reason. All right, it could be for a theological reason. Now, the theological reason is much more tied to the genealogy of Israel, the actual offspring of Abraham. And that one can get a little bit, like you can, I feel like that's a more straight cut path into anti-Semitism as opposed to the pure political side of it, because the nation state of Israel is, you know, and Judaism are not one and the same, okay? But the theological aspect of it, which is why we're going to talk about it, can bleed over into anti-Semitism. So there is can I say it's a gateway drug? The theological side of it can be a gateway drug. Maybe we could talk about that if y'all are ready for that yet. Now, this is where the theology aspect comes out here, okay? The author and journalist said certain online influencers like Carlson and Candace Owens, a podcast host who has also garnered criticism for her comments on Israel and the Jewish people, appear to have embraced replacement theology. Yeah. This is where the heart of the matter comes in. Candace Owens is a Catholic. She's a recent convert within the past couple of years, I think, but she's a Catholic. Catholicism, the premise of Catholicism is replacement theology. The Catholic Church has replaced the nation of Israel. They are the fulfillment of the Old Testament promises. Carlson, I don't know exactly what his... Can we even find this? Where does, you probably can't find that, because then that would be like, he's too famous for that. Where does Tucker Carlson go to church? Let's see if he says. Tucker Carlson is a lifelong member of the Episcopal Church. Episcopal, I think that's how I want to say it. Episcopal, though, is another way I feel like you could say it. You can tell I'm from Oklahoma because we have those churches, but I don't know of anybody that hardly goes. I know it's Episcopalian is how you would say it. Episcopal. So Episcopal Church, I'm assuming. Although he has expressed criticism of its current direction and policies, he has mentioned that he stays in the church because he loves the liturgy and the community. The Episcopal Church has leaned left in a lot of ways. Both Presbyterians and Episcopalians have. Episcopalians are going to still be of a similar vein when it comes to theology, though. I wonder if I can find this. I wonder if I can find it quickly. If not... Let me see if I can find here. I did a series. Let me see if I can find it. The history of it. Let's see if I can... You know, like, so I did a series. This wasn't put on... It wasn't streaming yet because I didn't have the equipment, but I did a series on, the American churches, and it's a whole series, and maybe one of these days I'll reteach it. But we have a list of, some of the most common denominations here, and we have the Episcopal Church. They baptize infants, very much of the similar vein as the Presbyterians, and some of it's kind of a broad scale here. As I was introducing them. But anyways, if I recall correctly, they're going to be of a reformed vein, is what I'm trying to say. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I almost knew it was, but I just wanted to speak. Sometimes when you're doing the live show, you almost get nervous because you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to go on record being wrong. So I just had to double check. So the Reformed theology view